Hello, everybody, and welcome once again. You are here, Angela Hendricks Ministries, and this is Relationally Speaking with Angela. So look here, y'all. I am not going to waste your time, but we've been having a good time so far. We're getting ready to go into something new starting next week. We'll be going into something new, but this week we are going to interview somebody else. All right, we're interviewing somebody else, and this person is definitely somebody that I've known for a while now. Man, we go back a little ways now. Time is really flying, y'all. But it's none other than my friend, Prophet Jeremiah Morrison, out of Camden, Arkansas. At least that's where he was when I met him. He's probably from somewhere else, but nevertheless, he's going to tell us about himself. But we're going to interview him tonight, and we're just going to see what his story is it any different? What's happening? But y'all, once again, go ahead, hit that share button. If you know somebody that needs to be in here to hear this story, because we're getting a different perspective, go ahead and hit that button to go ahead and share. All right, go ahead and share this broadcast with somebody. Go ahead and hit those like buttons, give us some hearts and some likes. Y'all, come on, let's go ahead and get into this. Welcome, Jeremiah, Prophet Jeremiah. Sorry about that. Welcome, Prophet Jeremiah. Look here, y'all. This man right here, I met him so long ago on Periscope, and my very, very first conference that I was having, he came and he did the audio visual for us at the church. He told us what we needed in order to hook up the TVs, and he did a really great and tremendous job, and then turned around and blew the shofar and wrecked the place. So go ahead, introduce yourself, Prophet Jeremiah, to us. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Originally, I was born and raised in El Dorado, Arkansas. It's
Okay.
about 30 miles south of Camden, Arkansas, where I was living at the time that I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I grew up in church. At least thought I was living right, living for Jesus the best I could, and until my whole life got turned inside out and upside down, and I was faced with a decision, and God gave God gave me a question, and out of that question came my complete brokenness and my complete surrender.
Amen. So, what are you doing now, Prophet Jeremiah? What are you doing?
So right now, I am living by faith. I am going to a
Your
ministry school called
ministry.
ministry school called Just One City School of Mission.
Okay.
Very heavy in prayer and outreach.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
basically preparing everybody to be a missionary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also in God is using this time to prepare me to become a pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I can see that.
it's been a journey.
Okay. So, where can we find you? Where can we find your information? I know you're no longer in Arkansas, but you go back and forth.
Yeah.
Where are you, and how can we get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably through my link tree.
Okay.
I
Your
believe
link
it's,
tree.
yeah, you got
So
that.
www.linktr.ee/Jeremiah1.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So, and that has all of your social media
Yeah.
information and all the links to the ministries and things that you are doing and what you're up to now, right?
Yes.
Okay, then. All righty, then. So, look here, y'all. We're going to get into the nitty gritty because we got to ask Prophet Jeremiah some questions, some personal questions, and he has agreed to answer those personal questions. All right, you did. You agreed to answer the personal questions. So let's go ahead and get in here because you have been married twice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this first one because you did mention that there was a life-changing, humbling experience that had to happen. But tell us how you met your first wife.
So my first wife, we met at a church summer camp.
Sounds promising.
There was actually the summer, and I know it was God. I made a lot of decisions where I messed up myself as well. But it was actually the summer that I was supposed to be going to basic training for the Army.
Mm.
I was 8 pounds overweight, so they didn't want to let me ship out to basic. So someone paid my way to go to this summer camp that I'd been hearing about for years that had just started up. My brother was actually one of the first kids that got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it came a long ways between him and me because he's like 9 years older than me. But
Okay.
they were taking a shower with a water hose and sleeping on the cafeteria tables when they first started it up. By the time I got there,
Okay.
they had video games, they had a pool, they had bunk beds, they had air conditioning, they had everything.
Okay. So how did you
And
meet her? The
so
one.
since I was supposed to be at basic training, my mindset was okay, I gotta get in shape. So I wait till it's too late basically, but when I get to summer camp, I just wake up early the first morning, I go running around the perimeter of the camp, and I think I went inside, got took a shower and got some clean clothes on. Then I went outside and started my other discipline of first time ever just sitting down and reading the Bible.
First time ever at a Bible count.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Go
just
ahead.
reading it for myself. And I don't even remember where I was. It might have been Proverbs, I think, but it just started coming alive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, this voice came over asking me, "Hey, do you know what time they open up for breakfast?" And I've heard of this happening from other ministers where as soon as they met the person, they said, "This is the one."
Yeah.
And I didn't want to believe it at first. I was like, "No, I'm too young. It ain't time yet." I heard the Holy Spirit say, "This is your wife." I'm like, "Huh? God, is that you?" This is my first time really ever hearing God too. So
Okay.
I kept my nose in the Bible. I said, "I don't know," and I just kept on reading. She kept on pestering, and finally I look up, and I just, I don't know. It just happened so fast. My youth group never saw me for the rest of the week. We would just sit and talk. I would listen to her story.
Mm-hmm.
She went through a lot of abuse as a child growing up, and she said she told me later on that she was looking. She didn't know what response she was looking for when she told
Mm-hmm.
people her story.
Yeah.
And the only thing I knew to do was give her a hug. And she said that was it.
Oh.
So out of
So
that hug,
she knew and you knew at
yeah,
that moment that hey, this is it. This is it right here. We
yeah.
finna do this. Okay. So with that, hold on just a second. Make sure this ringer is off. Okay. So with that, so now you've met. How old are you at this time?
I think about 17, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I had to be 17 because my parents had just signed the papers for me to even enlist.
okay.
It was
So
just before the senior year.
oh, okay. So it was in between your senior year, at junior and senior year. Okay, so
Yeah.
you signed up for the reserves and you were gonna go
Yeah.
in between. Okay, so now you heard the voice, the angelic voice. She got the magical hug that she needed. So what happened after that? How long before? How was the courting phase, and how long was the courting phase?
I think about 5 years, and it was strictly over the phone.
Okay, where was she from?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
So
Okay
we're
then.
good. I think 7, 8 hours apart or something.
Mhm.
We were several hours apart, and so I timed it just right. She told me how long it took her to get home. I knew how long it would take me to get home.
Mhm.
I sat down. I was home for maybe an hour. Of course, my
Mhm.
mom's observant. uh, at this time, I was actually living in a trailer park that my mother had inherited from her adopted mother.
Mhm.
And then years later, they get my mom marries my stepdad, and then years down the road, they finally sell the place. And we were actually just living there for a while. So
Okay.
I go in, sit down, I'm watching the time. I grab
Mhm.
my little phone card out. This was back before cell
Yeah.
phones. Went over
Yeah.
to a payphone, kind of telling my age, but I went up to the main building right in the center of this park, and I dialed the number, and she had just walked in the door. So we
Mhm.
started talking over the phone from that point on for about 5 years. Of course, within a minute, my mom pokes her head up around the corner, and then so she knew something's up. She already
You on the
pretty sure she
phone with
already knew it was a
somebody.
girl. So
Yeah.
he starts
I'm glad
questioning me
you
about who
did.
is she, where's she from, how'd you meet?
Yeah.
We
Okay,
talked,
so 5 years. So now you're more mature. You're about 21, 22.
yeah, about
And what
20. I think it was about
happens that
20
brings y'all
when we
together?
um let's see. I think she kind of had a she has she was having some family issues. She was actually raised by an aunt and uncle.
Mhm.
That was part of her baggage.
Okay.
Uh, she, I guess, realized we were both in love, so she decided to go ahead and come down here to El Dorado, Arkansas, and live with me, marry
Okay.
me. And that kind of
Okay.
began our life.
Okay. So y'all got married down in El Dorado, started living your best life ever. And what were there any red flags from that point? Because this whole courtship on the phone, 5 years, and because y'all are so young, obviously, y'all are
Yeah,
so young.
I
Five
didn't know
years.
what a red flag was back then. I was just
Looking
blinded
back
by
on
love.
looking back on it, once she came down and y'all got married, were there any signs at all that would say, I mean, how was it? Like, was it great? I mean, because you just got married, of course, you probably felt like it was great. You just got married. Was there anything, any telltale, anything that would cause you to be like, this might, something is off? Anything?
Only the only thing that would be a red flag to me today would be the abuse that she went through, knowing the trauma that causes,
Mhm.
and um, her struggle to forgive. She never could forgive the people who hurt her. And
Yeah.
knowing that what I know now, what that unforgiveness leads to, the spirits that come in with that,
Mm,
and the progression it makes. Looking back at it, I actually saw that. I could see that progression.
okay.
I read a book a few years back. I was given this book on the dangers of unforgiveness,
Hmm.
and it kind of shows you a little pathway from unforgiveness to bitterness to resentment to
Yeah.
hatred, and then a
Yeah.
spirit of murder, which I can
Yeah.
actually see that at the very end. She made some death threats towards the family that was taking in our children because of some other choices that she was making.
Okay. So That is going to lead us on in to what exactly was happening. So you are in this marriage, and what started to happen? So now children are coming. Obviously, children are coming. You have how many
Yeah.
beautiful children?
3.
Three.
They
Three
are
beautiful.
the girls are 13 and 15, and the boy is 18.
Come on. All
He
right.
my
So
son grew up on me.
yes, he is, and he's so handsome. He's so handsome. So now you have these children. You have these children. How are things different now? Are they different? You know, because the children are starting to come. You're working. Is she working or no?
Um, no, she. So one thing I learned about myself is during this first marriage, I was horrible husband. I was
Okay.
lazy and demanding, and it was my job to go to work and provide, and it was her job to stay home, cook, clean, raise the kids, and do all that.
Oh, okay.
And
So that's what you okay. Come on
so,
here. We all have a fault.
yeah,
Anytime something does not work, anytime something is not good, we always want to point the finger back at somebody else, but we definitely have some fingers pointing back at us. And there's things that we have to take into understanding that we did, you know? And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this first marriage, not being a good husband, you felt like all I need to do is work, and you tend to the house and
yeah,
the kids, all that, and I'm gonna work and get the money and bring the money in. All right. So just look, just take this money, and you ain't gotta have my anything else. Just take the money. That's how it was.
yeah.
Okay. So now what started this downward spiral then?
Again, I blame myself for that as well. Actually,
Okay.
I know that unforgiveness and bitterness that definitely attributed to it, but I've made a lot of mistakes myself.
Hmm.
Um, some things I was just ignorant to.
Yeah.
Uh,
You were
one
so
of them became
young. Yeah.
one of them became my downfall. But the biggest thing that I did to hurt her was one night I was driving home and I saw this young lady walking down the street. I honestly didn't. I thought she needed a ride, so I picked her up. Turns out prostitutes are real, and that just woke something up in my flesh. You know, I've never had any other options. Nobody's ever given me any attention or showed any form of interest. So I fell into that trap, uh, played with fire, and I got burned.
Wait, wait, wait,
Um,
wait.
I
Wait,
held
wait,
on to
wait, wait.
that
You
for
ain't gonna glaze
yeah.
over this, sir. Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. You ain't gonna get past me now. So you saying you picked up a young lady that you thought was just hitchhiking,
Yeah,
and next thing you know, you having sex with her?
yeah,
Okay. I just want to make sure we got that straight. So
yeah,
you, because we all grown in here. This the grown folks room.
yeah,
That's why it's private group. So we can get down to the nitty gritty. So you ended up having sex with this young lady on the
yeah,
way home to your wife and kids. How did she find out? What you said this opened a door for you that you didn't even know you had, because you
yeah,
never been with nobody else. You just
yeah,
been with your wife, and now this woman came, dropped some nuggets in your ear, and
yeah,
got you like, oh, I ain't never did that before. And now here
yeah.
you are. And so what happened? How did your wife find out?
Basically, I told her.
Okay.
I had repented to God, but the guilt still ate at me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one day we were sitting watching TV, and um, I don't know if this is the name of the man or the name of the church. It was called Mars Hill, and this
Mm-hmm.
guy was doing a question and answer, and that question came up about, well, if I cheated on my wife and I've repented to God, why should I repent to my wife? And he explained, well, because you broke your covenant to her, so she needs to know about that so she can make her own choice from there.
Yeah.
Well, that's when the conviction really hit me. I'm like, okay, I need to come clean. I told her what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Repented. She looking back, she said she forgave me, but I don't believe she really did. I know she held on to that hurt.
Mhm.
Now the person that she had put on the pedestal has also betrayed
Mm. Yeah. So, speaking of unforgiveness, you have to also forgive yourself because you went into condemnation,
her. Yeah.
which is not of God. But you went into condemnation, not just conviction, but condemnation. And so, did you ever really truly forgive yourself for what you did, or have you allowed this to fester in a way that now you feel like everything is your fault?
I guess you could say I'm still learning about self forgiveness. I've confessed it multiple times. Don't fully understand it. Never been taught how to forgive yourself other than just say the words, which is
Mhm.
how, towards the end, when I had to forgive her, that's how I had to do it, just through confession every day.
Okay. So now you're saying forgive her. Can you tell us what did that look like? So what started to happen after you confessed this? What started to happen with her?
Um, well, I thought life as usual for a few more years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't remember which year this was, but it was at least halfway through our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We were, I think, together for 12 years total.
Mm-hmm.
The things I started noticing was around the 10th year, right after I put together this big wedding vow renewal ceremony built off of the ancient Jewish wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime after that, of course, I hadn't changed much myself, except that I knew one of the dangers that was out there, so I try to keep myself guarded from that from now on.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed, we went through struggles, financial struggles. At one point, it got so bad, my only mode of transportation was a little moped. I
Mm-hmm.
was waiting tables at a Italian restaurant, and although I held the record for a long time, I don't know if it's ever been broken yet, but I held the record at my job for bringing home the most tips. But it was still a struggle. It's still, there's a lot of days where I didn't make hardly any money.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting tables is difficult. It's a life of struggle, really.
Okay. So y'all started struggling financially. So when you started
Yeah.
struggling financially, I look, let me tell you. So when in my marriage, when I started struggling financially, see, a lot of people think that divorce comes with infidelity or divorce comes with something traumatic, but it doesn't always come with something traumatic.
Yeah.
It can be the eaches, the little things like, look, I'm
Hmm.
tired of seeing your drawers on the floor. I'm tired,
Yeah.
so the financial thing is a big one. If you're
Yeah.
the only breadwinner, if you
Yeah.
are not able to, keep everything together, that weighs on you, and it weighs on the spouse as well, because I worked and my spouse didn't all the time, and so it was a lot that was on me, and I'm sure it was a lot that was on him because he wants to be able to contribute, but for some reason, one way or the other, he wasn't. And so we
Yeah.
found ourselves in different situations as well, and that put a very, very bad strain on the relationship, on trust, on love, on everything. I mean, that can really put a strain on you. So, with this strain of finances, you're down to riding a moped. Um, what was happening back home?
We kind of bounced around from motel to motel, living in these places. And then I start coming home, and the kids are outside running around, not being watched. I start realizing she's not at home where I thought she belonged, anyways, but she was always in somebody else's room.
Okay.
I was still blind to the fact, to those red flags. And I guess one thing that got my attention was one one day I was riding home from work. I was actually right down the road from there, but I saw this man's car that she was hanging out with. I didn't realize anything was going on with them at the time because he had her reading, supposedly helping him with a book that he was writing, which I actually got to read that manuscript.
Mhm.
So I know that wasn't a lie. And he also had me help him with a website. But when I saw his car was there, I knew, okay, she's probably over there.
Across
So
the
I was
road.
about, yeah.
Okay.
So I was about to park my moped right next to his car. Well, Holy Spirit told me, no, go back and park in that corner where you normally park. So I did that. As I was passing by his car, my baby girl, Rebecca, the youngest, was sitting in the parking spot, just playing on the ground.
Mhm.
And I realized I could have run her over,
Mm.
and so could a car. So like I parked as quickly as I could and ran over there and picked her up, and started confronting her, and it just basically went downhill from there.
Okay.
We moved to a different motel, which she started, I guess, doing real. I think that first man, he convinced her. She told me this later on that he told her that she could never be happy with me because I wasn't a millionaire. I wasn't wealthy and rich, and she swallowed it. So
Okay. So now that confrontation happened. What happened after that confrontation? Y'all moved to another hotel, and then what was another factor?
um, same thing kept happening. I kept coming home, and
The
she
kids be
wouldn't be in the
outside.
room. The kids would be outside running around half naked and not being watched, and
These
she
are
wasn't in
extended
the
stay
room.
hotels.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she kind of did it under the cover of running a laundry service, which I mean she did make some money doing that, but I believe I know now she was doing more than just laundry. But
Okay. Well, okay. So now we see that things are heating up. All right. So you've been on the straight and narrow since that happened with the young lady. But y'all are in extended stay hotels. Y'all are
yeah,
no longer in your own home. You're in
yeah.
extended stay. So how long is it that y'all stayed in the extended stay? Do you think?
Um, I think it had to have been close to a year, maybe.
Okay. So now a year has passed in the extended stay, and what is happening now?
Um, I guess my friends and family started noticing something wasn't right, and one day my mom shows up on my doorstep with this lady I went to high school with.
Mm-hmm.
We'd actually just got reconnected, and I knew based off of the ministry vision God had given my wife at the time, it lined up perfectly with the ministry vision that this couple had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Started out as they came knocking on the door saying that now we've had plenty of run-ins with the Department of Human Services. A lot of people didn't like us and called in false allegations. Now some of them were true, but the abuse ones were never accurate. They were always making up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there was environmental neglect because I was not doing my part to help clean up the house and help, bear my wife's burdens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I had actually fasted. I think I did 2 Daniel fasts, and God finally uh, had a judge completely overturn the last false allegation they had that they were going behind our backs to a judge trying to get the kids taken away from us.
Wow.
And so during one of our weekly checks, our caseworker said, "Oh, and by the way, we're closing your case." I'm like, "Okay, awesome." Oh, and by the way, the judge overturned our decision. I'm like, "Wait a minute, what decision was that?" Because we'd already been through all the processes, and the judges always threw everything out for lack of evidence.
Yeah.
And she brought up one that we had already been through that process. Judge already threw it out, but they were going back at it again behind our backs, so we wouldn't have any way to defend ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we at this point we've had no investigations, no calls, no nothing. We felt like we were doing a lot better. Still had a lot of room for improvement. My character hadn't quite changed just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had put up safeguards around myself to make sure I didn't fall into cheating, running around on my wife again.
Right.
But my character still was the same.
So you're
Um,
still like the husband that still just believe that I'm
yeah,
gonna work, you stay home, and you should be able to
yeah,
do everything.
yeah.
Put the load on her with no help.
Did I did start help cleaning up a little bit when the
The
DHS started
caseworker,
coming
yeah.
through. That was kind of my one of my wake up calls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, had a one of my pastor's sons came over with a shovel and some big contractor bags because I mean it was horrible. You could not see the floor for all the junk and mess and trash everywhere. And
Mm.
got the wife out of the house, and he gave me that man to man talk. Look, you need to straighten up. You got to take care of this. She's about to leave you. You need to get better and do better.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So
that kind of woke me up.
okay, so now you woke. Now you woke. Now things should be looking up, except for now you got a pending case. All right. So now you got this pending case. So what happened once the pending's all said and done, or did something happen with the case?
Well, this when they showed up on my doorstep, there was no case. The
Mhm,
DHS had started calling my friend, digging for dirt, and the funny thing was, my wife had just warned me that sometimes they do that when
mhm,
they've had multiple failures in a case. They'll try to find something on you to reopen a case. So that's what they were
mhm.
doing. They never got it reopened, but uh, my mom and Sabrina had showed up on my doorstep. Uh, they we had a little discussion, had some heated words, and I finally, for the first time ever, I'd always just defaulted to my wife's side. I didn't.
Right.
I had just gotten a few hints. Even my pastor had noticed that my wife was not entirely honest in some things that she was saying.
Oh.
I didn't think anything of it, but when our youngest daughter she was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, her doctor just automatically assumed that we're doing something to her and it's our fault. So he called. I think that was the last thing we ever had dealing with DHS. But
Mhm.
so we went through this little season. The doctor on duty at the hospital discovered this deficiency, which basically saved our butts for the
Mhm.
last time. And then, so years down the road, my mom and my friends show up, and finally, I just told my wife, "Look, get back in the room. Let me talk to them and find out. Let me think. Let me talk."
Yeah.
Which that also added, I guess, to her hurt because in her eyes, I had just taken I had just taken my mom's word over hers.
Yeah, if you tell her, okay, enough talking, you let the grown folks talk now. You know that.
Yeah.
Look, I'm so glad that you're being transparent and allowing us to hear your fault. You know, allowing us to hear your fault, allowing us to hear what it is you did to break down the trust wall, because the wall of trust has been,
Yeah.
broken down, etched, cracked away at. Um, broke down a whole lot of little things that were your fault, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you are taking responsibility. A lot of people do not take responsibility for their portion or their side. As bad as it is, they would only say, oh, well, this person wronged me, and I could never, talk to them ever again. But you taking ownership is something big, and I think that should be commended, and it shows your growth. It shows your growth that
Yeah.
you knew that these places is where I was wrong. These places where I was wrong.
Yeah.
So what happened that made it to where y'all weren't together no more? What was the big blow up, or what happened that was like, oh man?
Well, there was actually the very next thing that happened was that one night my friend offered. Now we had just reconnected with this family. This couple has about, I think, 7 kids of their own,
Mhm.
6 or 7 of their own. They said, "Well, let the kids come have a sleepover." We had just done that with the whole family, so I didn't see nothing wrong with that. So okay,
You, your wife, and your kids slept over at their house.
yeah,
So you didn't see anything wrong with letting
yeah,
the kids go.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
right. And they never brought the kids back. From that point on, it was just a fight to even see them. Of course, I didn't even have a vehicle, which
Mhm.
is probably a good thing because we could have. I'm sure there would have been a legal battle at some point over that because I had multiple people offer, well, uh, let's go over there and take them back by force, which I was just about to do that, but all I had was a moped. I couldn't.
Mm.
And long story short, God took something that was done in the completely wrong way and has turned it around for
Mhm.
His glory.
Okay.
When the kids went over there and didn't come back, my wife she was furious,
Yeah.
um, and basically everybody shut her down. Everybody told her, no, just leave them alone, calm down. I think from that point on, she had she didn't want nothing to do with me. She started running around selling herself. Um, Towards the I didn't really, I guess I didn't want to see it. I was blinded by my love and forgiveness for her.
So, okay, hold on. You
Yeah,
said that all of a sudden she started to get to where she didn't have the love for you anymore. So she began to run around on you. She began to sleep around and sell herself.
yeah,
And this was all from the extended stay.
yeah,
And you're working still, obviously, because the
yeah,
extended stay is still there. So you're working, and she's selling herself,
yeah,
and you didn't want to see it. You just did not
yeah,
want to see that there was anything
yeah,
there. You just wanted to see her in her purest state, like, no,
yeah,
this is my wife. But she
yeah,
was broken. Her kids are gone.
mm,
Her only source of peace in the midst
yeah,
of all the chaos that was going on may have been the kids, and then you being the stern husband, like, I'm going to work and you stay here and do everything else. So she didn't have that outlet to talk to you. And so what happened?
Um, I guess at that point she started accepting all of these offers she was getting from all the men in the other men in the hotel or motel. And at one point, she had confessed that people had been offering money to sleep with her, but the way she told me about it, it sounded as if she was really mad that she turned them down. So she, one of my neighbors later on after we moved out of that place, finally, I thought things were looking up shortly after that. I don't even know how I came up with the money waiting tables, but somehow I was able to pay $500 for a mobile home. So
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, I thought things were looking up. I finally bought my first home. It's definitely a fixer upper.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm sure there were probably a million better options than this one, but I finally had my first home,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some good neighbors that uh, they saw how I guess nice I was, and I was trying to be godly. That they just couldn't hold the secrets anymore. They finally told me what was going on, and when I was gone, she would always ask ask the neighbors for rides to go see these other men. And one day it was in front of me when the one of the neighbors' wives confronted her on that she they would be more than willing to take her to go see her kids, but she chose to go see other men instead. And so that kind of infuriated me as well, and
Mm-hmm.
more hurt, more rejection, more anger. Uh, and finally, this one man shows up out of nowhere. I still am trying to forgive and look past everything. She said he was living out of his car and didn't have a place to stay. So I said, well, he can sleep on the couch. Uh, I started, I guess that's about when I started really suspecting things. And when I kind of figured it out, they just brought it out in the open. Now, I was so desperate and broken myself, desperate to save my marriage. I stepped out and did something I never should have done. I allowed this man to talk me into sharing her with him.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on, sir. Okay, so you said he talked you, and you in the church, you the godly
Yeah.
man, and he done talked you into sharing her, like what? Sharing her physically, sharing her emotionally,
Sexually.
sharing her how?
Sexually.
Okay. Okay, I'm back. So you allowed this man because you were so desperate to keep her. God bless you. You were so desperate to keep her that you agreed to share your wife with him if that was going to make her stay with you as well.
Yeah.
God almighty. Okay. So you really were like, I don't think people understand the consequences of carrying rejection. uh Rejection and anger. You would think rejection and anger will cause you to be angry, and it will cause you to be angry and
Yeah.
lash out. But when it's at the person that you love so much, it will cause you to disintegrate. You, at knowing yourself, like people could see you and hear, oh, he's sharing his wife. They'd be like, no, not him, he would never do that. But it will cause you to disintegrate, and
Yeah.
for a whole nother persona to come up in order for you to keep the one little piece that seemed like it was really good, because there was so much rejection that you want to keep that piece.
Yeah.
So you're at this point where now you are sharing your wife, your legal wife, mother of your children, with this man who came off the street, and you thought you was just helping him.
Yeah.
And so what happened from there?
Um, I realized I couldn't do that. It was destroying me emotionally that she would want to be with another man instead of me. Uh, at one point, I finally just had enough. I told them, look, y'all need to stop doing this. But
So you hit the
they
rock
didn't.
bottom.
Yeah, and of course they didn't listen. They just kept on. He just kept on having sex with her right in front of me after that point,
Wait,
and I
wait, wait,
was
wait,
not a
wait.
part of it.
Hold what you got, because you be trying
Yeah.
to skim over stuff. You be saying stuff real quick and going by. I need. So you said that they continued on the relationship. All right. So it's one thing to continue on the relationship behind my back, but you're saying that they decided that they
Yeah.
in your like literally in your face,
Yes.
or are
Yes.
like just,
With me in the room.
and you sat there.
Yes. I've
Okay.
always been that passive person.
Yeah. Yeah. You're very sweet. And that's why I love you, Jeremiah. But anyway, so um you're watching now. I can't imagine what could have been going on in your head, in your heart, your mind, your spirit. I can't imagine. I I don't even want to begin to pretend like I can understand, because I can't, because this is a man, and he's watching his pride and joy. Uh yeah. So tell me, after watching this, how did you end up leaving? How did you end up leaving? How did you end up not
Um,
being with her anymore? What was the rock bottom for you?
Well,
What was like, I'm done? Y'all know what happened.
she gave me my ring back that I gave her to get married in, and they both left.
Okay.
So now I'm in the house all alone with memories everywhere. Everywhere I went, even when I went to town, just 12 years of memories. It was like pouring salt on the wound, and I just never could get any healing.
Hmm.
Um,
So you were slowly unraveling at that
yeah,
point,
yeah,
and nobody could hear that silent cry.
yeah.
Jeremiah, Jeremiah. Um, yeah, there's some healing that we have to do. So what were the steps that you started to take, or what happened that you said, okay, I can't stay here? Did somebody see
Um,
it, or is there
no,
something?
um, well, a couple of things happened. During this process, I finally stopped going to church for at least a month, I think. Um,
Mhm,
in one breath, I'm crying out desperately for God to save my marriage. And a couple of breaths later, I'm questioning how can God exist and allow me to go through this pain I'm going through, which
mm,
really I did to myself through all my choices over the last 12 years. Just adding to her pain that she was already there rather than being a loving, supportive husband and helping her heal from all that. I was
mhm.
adding more wounds.
Okay.
And so one day, in that bitter, broken, hurt place, I remembered seeing the Holy Spirit just brought this one scene from the movie Facing the Giants,
Mhm,
where the husband was asking the wife. They had just found out that they couldn't have children because of him,
mhm,
and he was out in the yard just praying and focusing and thinking. And when she came out to join him, he said, "If God never gives us children, will you still serve Him?" And it's just, that scene played in my mind, and then I heard the Holy Spirit say, "If I don't save your marriage, will you still serve me?"
mm.
That was my rock bottom.
Okay. That was
I
it.
broke. That was complete brokenness.
Mhm.
And after I got done bawling my eyes out, I finally said, "Okay, I can't question God's existence. He's talking to me right now.
Right.
Yes, Lord, I'm yours. I'm all yours. I'll go where you want me to go. Do what you want me to do."
And you've been on a
Um,
mission ever since.
yeah, I basically got back in, started going back to the church. I was their media person, so I had a key to the church. So I finally said, you know what, I can't stay in this house no more. It's too painful. So I went. Our church had a little couch set up in there, so I just went and slept on the couch.
Mhm,
And when I think I was hanging out at a gas station down the road, and I kind of looked over and I saw my wife leaning over the counter. I walked over to her, and my stupid self went and just spilled the beans and told her what I was doing, where I was at. So of course, they went and found out who the landlord was over the church or on the property, and uh, went to the past. That landlord went to the pastor. The pastor came to me, said, "Are you staying in the church? Because we're not allowed to have anybody here." So that actually opened up a whole new door where that pastor just happened to be longtime friends with my mom. I grew up in a nursery with her kids, and her husband had
mhm,
invited me to come with them for a little while. So that
mhm,
gave me some time to get my mind off of everything and heal a little bit and get a little focused about me. I got a new job and started working, and then all of a sudden, uh, basically, I wasn't working. I didn't know if I had
mhm.
a job or not. They just told me to go home and wait, and we'll call you. I kept calling them every week and said, "Look, we'll call you," but they never called me. So at around this time, God told me to move to Camden.
Okay.
Um, I argued with God for a good 30 minutes because my kids are still in El Dorado at this time.
Mhm,
Um, Actually, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. I think one of her final straws was when we could not get access to our children. They're being kept from us. So I confronted my friend through a text and said, "Look, what you're doing is called kidnapping.
mhm.
It's not right." And so they, her knowing them now, just, "Oh no, we ain't going through that." So they went and got a lawyer, had papers done up, said, "Look, you can sign this paper, sign over guardianship to us, or we will give your kids over to DHS and you'll never see them again."
Oh
And
my
my
goodness.
mom, my mom and her, I found it now. This little detail I found out later on after all this had blown over. But
Mm-hmm.
my mom told me around that time, her and my friend Sabrina, they went to the director of the Department of Human Services trying to get them to take our kids.
Oh, okay.
And the director told them exactly what my wife had been warning them about that nobody wanted to listen to. That DHS was, she said, the director herself said, you don't want us taking them. We're still under too many investigations for having too many deaths under our care.
Mm.
Yeah. Basically, when we both signed that dotted line, that I really believe that was the end of everything, of all hope for her. Her pride and joy of her three children were gone. I let it happen, and so she gave up on us.
Okay. So now, um, going into this or coming out of this, you have found your way, fought your way back. You have put God as a priority. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you
Yeah,
because when I first met you, you couldn't even work the microwave. You could not work a microwave to warm yourself food up. So you would eat it cold. So I'm so proud
yeah,
of you because now you have gone to school for culinary arts. You cooking up your own chocolate and you doing all kinds of bakery type stuff. So I'm so
yeah,
proud of you because you definitely have come a long way. You've invested the time in yourself to be able to cook for. I remember you posting some food that you were cooking, and you was like, "Oh, look!" And I was like, "Oh, it looks so good." You was like, "I forgot to put seasoning in it, but in my haste, I forgot to put seasoning in it, but it it came out good anyway." And I was like, "What kind of chef forgets to season the food?" But I'm talking about Prophet Jeremiah. But so I'm excited for you because now you will be able to make somebody happy. You're going to make a beautiful husband, and you are ministry minded, mission
yeah,
oriented. Like you are a
yeah,
missionary. This is what you are
yeah.
born to do. So I know there's another person out there that's a missionary that is going to be able to share this walk and this journey with you. And you got married again, and we're going to touch that real quick because I don't want the time to get away from us, but we're going to touch that real quick. You got married again. Going into this
Hmm.
next marriage, what happened? Like, what happened going into this next marriage? Mindset, what happened?
Um, so I bumped into an old friend.
Okay,
Now,
old friends keep popping up, but go
now,
ahead.
now, this particular one, there was never anything between us.
Right.
If anything, there's a lot of disagreements between us. But we actually, my wife and Malik, all we had was Malachi at this one point, and I moved over to a sister church in a Pentecostal Church of God to be a youth pastor with no youth. Well, this lady and her she would bring her daughter, and occasionally her friend would bring her three kids. That was
Mm-hmm.
my youth. At one point, the pastor quit. He just decided he didn't want to come like the church for us anymore. So she invited us to come to her house. So we started having our youth meetings at her place. And
Mm-hmm.
Malachi and her daughter became friends as babies. And we kind of, after that little season, we lost touch with her. And then all of a sudden, I bump into her. This was another interesting thing that happened. I had actually just brought a friend from the church that I was in when everything happened. Uh, this lady had reached out to me, so I told her about my church. I'm like, "Well, you need to come visit up here." So
Yeah.
I traveled. I drove to El Dorado, picked her up, took her to my church,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think we went back to my apartment. She helped me with a little bit of cleaning and cooking, and helped me with a little bit of my laundry, just being a friend and talked and listened. And I said, "Well, you know what? I need to get you back home." So I took her home, and I was about to turn around and go back the way I came. Holy Spirit said, "No, go down this road." Well, I done been gone. I mean, I knew my way around, but I had like a map in my head at one point. I knew exactly where every street led to. I knew, I just had a map in my mind of El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that has faded. Now I have a map of Camden, Arkansas in my mind. But Holy Spirit tells me, nope, go down this way. Okay, so I start driving this way. I've heard of this happening, but this is the first time it happened to me where God gave me directions. He just said, go here, go here. Like, he could have just he could have just told me, look, go to Victory Church. But, and this was on a Saturday night. There was a bunch of cars in the parking lot. And I just kept thinking, I wonder if my kids are in there. I wonder, you know what? I'm just going to go in and see. Well,
Mhm.
they weren't this time, but I went in, sat down on the back, just started listening to the pastor. Now this is actually the church that taught me all that sound, lighting, and multimedia stuff. I
Mhm.
was with them for about 3 years before God sent me back to the other previous church, was a Pentecostal church, for a couple of years before that pastor resigned.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, this lady just stands out to me wearing this red shirt. All I see is the back of her head. God starts giving me a word for her.
Okay.
And just to make sure I didn't question, I felt that heavy weight of a prophetic word that, hey, this is God speaking. You better listen. So I got a little index card out. I started writing down the word. She still has it to this day.
Okay.
But yeah,
So y'all saw each other, reconnected,
yeah,
and then y'all eventually got married. We
yeah.
we know that much. So when y'all got married, what happened?
Um, we should have waited longer. um, she had actually no blinded by love or infatuation, whatever you want to call it. I ignored all the red flags, the
Okay, at least
anger.
at least you're able to admit it. You're able to
Yeah.
admit it. Okay.
I guess at this point I'm like, ooh, red flags, red pretty. I can hang up curtains.
It's so pretty. That's so pretty.
Yeah, I'll just ignore all the red flags, all her hurt, her unforgiveness, her anger.
Yeah.
I just kind of let it go. I said, you know what, she needs some. My intentions were to be a friend. I was actually helping. I was actually praying with her. We got together and prayed several times.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband had already left her, and I was
Mm-hmm.
actually praying for the restoration of her marriage.
Mm-hmm.
He'd already made up his mind. Which after she did it to me, now I completely understand. Okay, I've I asked God at one point, okay, God, why am I every time I turn around, I see you saving somebody else's marriage, but mine always falls apart? And
Mm-hmm.
he said, because of their choice. As long as both people have a willingness to choose each other and choose to get through it, I can work in it.
Mm-hmm. So what
Once they make it,
happened?
um, a lot of control, anger, and abuse, mostly verbal abuse.
To who?
And
You was being verbally abusive.
yeah, no, she was being
I
abusive to
was
me.
gonna say what? Okay. So there was verbal abuse that was going on.
On the other hand, I'm kind of glad it has me how strong
And the
gave me this
verbal abuse started
revelation.
what
Drew, and I just stood
Mm,
there and took it.
okay.
Um, she would
So in
always tell me
go
she would
ahead.
always tell me she needed me to stand up to her. Well, that was another tactic of that Jezebel spirit trying to entrap me into reacting just the way she wanted me to react, so she would have an excuse to just let loose on her rage and come after.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I ignored it. One time, I made the mistake of we had gone out to eat. We had gone out. I wanted one particular Chinese restaurant. She wanted a Chinese restaurant, and her son wanted a different place. So we went to three different places, got their food. She was feeding him on the way home. Gave me like one or two bites, but they were eating on the way home. So when we got home, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make my own plate. Um, now, I during this marriage, actually, when I did work, I wasn't working very much. I think at one point I was just going to school
Mm-hmm.
and just living off of the school checks.
Yeah.
And so I was doing school full time. But I went to, I started hearing about cooking classes. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I've done asked everybody in my previous church to teach me how to cook. They said, yeah, sure, anytime, but they didn't have time. Well, as
Right.
soon as I set foot back in El Dorado, Arkansas, I started hearing about these cooking classes. So I go and ask about them. Turns out it was a 2-year culinary arts program. Unfortunately, COVID hit and
Mm-hmm.
they never got the second year up and running. Right now, they're still, even to this day, they're still repeating the first year over and over.
Okay.
Um, but in the midst of all this, this wife was just screaming at me saying, "You're stupid. You're worthless. You're a village idiot. You're wasting
Mm.
time. You're a waste of time and space and money, and you shouldn't be doing this. Who does that? Who goes to culinary school to learn how to cook?" And well, me. Um, I had had enough of making myself sick off of eating straight peanut butter straight out of the jar, and I think my body's developed an intolerance to it now. But you know, I remember one funny moment when I was still in Camden. I was eating peanut butter out of a jar, and this buddy that had gotten me this job, he was driving me. I didn't have a car at the time. This is just before I bought a car from my pastor, and he said, "You know, I got some crackers back there in that back seat." I said, "Oh, okay, sir." Man, crackers have never tasted so good to me before. When I got that first one, that put some peanut butter on it. Oh man, wow, this is awesome. This is amazing.
We're not
He just
finna,
stared at me like,
no, look, Prophet Jeremiah, you're not gonna take me down your rabbit hole. Hold on, with no peanut butter and crackers. Look here, we trying to get down to the nitty gritty. You ain't gonna take me down your rabbit hole with the peanut butter and crackers. And I get what you're saying though, because it's a whole new world when you add them crackers with that
I
peanut.
was starting to get sick off all that peanut butter.
Yeah, and so
And that
that
was the only
that taste
thing.
of
That's the only
crackers
thing I
just
could
set it
eat.
off for you.
So
Okay.
I just got that was my rock bottom with cooking. I said, you know what? I need to learn how to cook.
So now, what was it that happened with her? What was your rock bottom with her that got you out of this situation?
That would be the day that we all got the Chinese food, came home, and I started making my own plate instead
Mhm.
of like I would uh, I'd put myself off to the side. I'd go last. I'm taking care of her. I'll take her shoes off, let her sit down, turn on her favorite movie, rub her feet while she's eating, and then I'll go grab my plate.
Okay.
And this day we walk in, I grab a plate and I start making my food, put my food off my plate. And she got mad and said, "I'm serving the God of my belly." I said, "Uh, I should have kept my mouth shut and kept on walking in love and forgiveness." But this time my flesh rose up. I said, "Okay, she wants me to react. Here we go." I said, "Like you mean like you did in the car?" And she cussed me out. I cussed her back. She touched me,
Ooh, wait a
and
minute, you was cussing?
I said one word, but yes.
Okay. All right.
And there's and
Okay.
she went over. So she had already confiscated all my culinary knives because they were nice, they were expensive, they were nice and sharp, and she had dulled all of hers, improper use. Which I finally realized and tried to teach her, but she didn't want to hear from me because I don't know nothing.
Okay.
And
And
I did learn. I did learn through this relationship to even if your spouse is against you, you have God with you. um, I was asking God, okay, God, I don't want her destroying my knives. How can I talk to her about this? And finally, He gave me the exact word to say. She was sitting there about to destroy one of my knives, trying to cut potatoes, and I said, "Tell her to let the knife do the work for you." And that caught her attention. At first, she shut me off. Said,
wait a minute. This is on the same night that y'all
"Oh,
had the Chinese
well, this
food?
is just before that, actually."
Oh, we
But
talking about the Chinese food. We talking
yeah.
about the night that everything corrupted and you was like,
Well,
okay.
she grabbed one of those knives and started
Mm-hmm.
waving it around and threatened to stab me 1,000 times with it.
Oh, okay. That'll do
Yeah,
it. Mm-hmm.
and I've already had I've just one of my hobbies over the years. I've never been able to stick with it because lack of money or lack of time, one of the two. But I've
Yeah.
always studied, like I've enjoyed studying martial arts. Um, my very first style I ever learned, specifically focused on multiple attackers and disarming people with weapons, guns, knives, sticks, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, oh crap, if she comes at me with this, I don't have a choice but to disarm her and it's going to hurt her. And I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, at the same time, the prophetic kicked in and the Holy Spirit showed me every single move she was about to make just before she made it. And when I started that cycle, okay, God's showing me, okay. So when she came towards me with this knife, just kind of tapping it on my chest, which I just seen happen. I'm like, okay, so I stayed calm. I kept my cool. She did that. She never, if she had come at me with it, I
You'd have
probably
to
wouldn't,
defend yourself. Yeah.
have to defend myself and most likely been in jail because um, she's
So
very
you
good at rallying people to her defense.
so you left that night.
No, I did not. I stayed. Kind of slept with one eye open, but I was determined, you know what, I'm not gonna divorce her. We can get through this. God can still move.
What was the point that made you leave, Jeremiah? That's what
No,
I thought the knife, that wasn't it.
she
It
told me
wasn't
to
the
leave.
knife. Huh?
There's a couple of nights later, she told me, look, this ain't gonna work. You gotta leave. So I'm like, okay,
Oh, okay. I see. So she told you you got to go
yeah.
out of nowhere. Okay.
But the knife kind of told me it was over, but I still was trying to fight. But
I'm not laughing at
I
you,
was
but
fighting. I
that
was fighting a losing
that would
battle.
have told me too. That the knife thing probably would have told
I
me.
was fighting a losing
If you
battle. But
threatened to kill me or stab me a
yeah.
thousand times, that probably would
Mhm.
have made it to where I would have been feeling some kind of way about you.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremiah, I thank you for sharing your story. I thank you for being so transparent and so honest. All right, so transparent and so honest. Look, we're gonna hook you up. We're gonna find you somebody. All right, somebody on this live. Somebody look at Jeremiah. Look at that smile. Look at those eyes. You know, he's so sweet, so sweet. We're gonna hook you up. We're gonna get you hooked up, Jeremiah. But in the meanwhile, tell us what you got going on now. What do you have going on now? So since you came out of that marriage, you have just been on fire for God and you have
Yeah.
moved. So where are you at now?
I'm a little bit of everywhere, all over the
Okay.
DFW area.
Okay.
um, a friend has actually put me up at a hostel in Irving, Texas, which is
Okay.
right down the road from the school that I'm going to. The ministry school is in Arlington, so I'm kind of right down the road from there.
Okay.
Ever since we had a Love Dallas event, I've just been sleeping in my car, and I've been working at Taco Bell, which I know God put me there, but at the same time, it ain't enough. Um,
Right.
I'm not making enough money. I couldn't even afford the gas to go back to Fort Worth, where at the time I've been staying. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in a place of reflecting and asking God, okay, Lord, where am I supposed to be staying? I need to know some specifics where you want me. Um,
Right. So you had
at the
just been
moment,
staying out of your car and
yeah,
now your friend has put you up in a hostel. So you're in a hostel now and
which is a
look,
whole
I'm
nother
gonna
mission field.
huh?
Which is a whole nother mission field. I just had another discussion about Jesus with one of the guys here today.
Okay, so we're gonna put your Cash App up on the screen. So if anybody is compelled to help Jeremiah out with even $1, $2, just
Yeah,
with food and gas, because gas is high right now.
yeah.
But if y'all are compelled to help him at all, it is on Cash App. It's $MORJER7. All right. If y'all are compelled to help him in any way, shape, form, or fashion, it would be greatly appreciated. So I thank you all for what it is that you all have come here to do. You've come here to hear Prophet Jeremiah's story. You have a shofar ministry. You want to tell us about that? You teach people how to play the shofar? Do you teach them?
Actually, I just started doing that. Yes, while I was back in actually it was just before I moved to Camden, Arkansas
Okay.
from El Dorado. God gave me a vision for a shofar school.
Okay.
I had forgotten about this vision. I went to this one place. Get this. This is I discovered this place called ESP of Dallas. It stands for Emotional, Spiritual, Physical. They
Mhm.
do all kinds of stuff for the homeless community in the
Okay.
Dallas area.
Mm-hmm.
And this church is in what used to be a strip club.
Okay.
And one of the ladies that they're helping, that's actually kind of, I think she's on staff or she's volunteering with them. She's very involved with the church side. She used to
Mm-hmm.
be one of the dancers in that club.
Amen.
Uh,
That's awesome.
all of the dancers, the owners, everybody got saved at one point. So that strip club ended up getting shut down, and now it's a church.
That's awesome. That
And
is awesome. So look here, y'all. If y'all can help him out, if y'all want to learn how to play the shofar, go on and get in touch with him. He is
yeah,
on Facebook. Like you said, if you go to his Linktree has his social media accounts. You can look for him, Jeremiah Morrison, on Facebook and Instagram. He does have a devotional word that he does. He really does. He has a devotional word that he does, and it's pretty good. Y'all go back, listen to his words. He gives you the prophetic of what God is saying for the hour. For that hour, he gives it to you. So if you want to follow Prophet Jeremiah, please follow Prophet Jeremiah. If you want to learn how to blow that shofar,
yeah,
he can do that too. You have audio visual problems at your church, you want some flyers made, you want t-shirts made, he do it all, man. He's
this is
gonna
my new band. Pray
come
more.
on. That's it. That's it. So he definitely has a lot of skills that he can lend to the kingdom. And so, y'all, if you want to support him, remember his Cash App is up here. Y'all can go ahead and support him. Again, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us and telling us your story once again. Jeremiah, thank you so much. Hey, look, y'all,
Thank
until
you for having me.
next Saturday. All right. Until next Saturday, y'all. We're back here, same bat channel, same bat place, different format because next Saturday we are going to get the word. All right. We are going to get the word of God. People are going to be ministering the different people in the Bible, and they're going to be bringing it to us in a different way. And I think we're going to really, really enjoy it because we're going to get some deliverance on that. We're going to get some breakthrough from it. I'm just looking for God to move. So, y'all, until next time, y'all, I'm just going to tell y'all.